What is going on, everybody? Welcome to yet another episode of The Rose Show. As always, I'm your host, Jay. Who else but me? And today, my guest is James Ellsworth, one of the most unique individuals in all of wrestling history. And I think he's got one of the better stories in all of wrestling history as well. And not only that, in entertainment, I think that goes through all forms, with something where you've got to work hard to get somewhere and make the most out of your opportunity, which I guess can translate through all life, absolutely. But for him, and being in entertainment, like it's even more so because not to be cliche and quote Eminem or anything like that, but when you get your shot, you got to take it, and he did, and really excelled at it. So we'll get into all that here in a minute. As the episode goes on, I think you guys are really gonna like it. And also, I wanted to remind y'all because I am this close from 1,000 followers on YouTube. If you are watching this on YouTube, if you're new to the show, if you're here because of James, whatever it might be, do me a favor and hit subscribe wherever you're watching, but especially on YouTube. If you have a YouTube account, you're listening to this on Amazon or Apple or Spotify or whatever it might be, absolutely subscribe there. But I'm asking y'all, please, and I'll put it on the scroller here too while I talk. I'm asking y'all, please go to my YouTube account at youtube.com/@the-Rose-Show-Pod and give me a subscribe. I'm trying real hard to get to that 1,000 mark because that's where everything really starts taken off for the people that are on YouTube, and I'm this close from it. So if you would help me out with a sub, and I appreciate it. And if you got one as well, hey, I support anybody that supports me. So if you're watching this and there's a comment section where you can find this episode at, drop your fucking account and I will subscribe right back. Sub for sub, baby. It's all about supporting one another, and I would appreciate your support as well. But enough of my babbling. Let's hear a word from my sponsor and then get into my episode with James Ellsworth. Here we go, y'all. Hey, what's going on, everybody? It's Jay, and I'm here for W Energy, my sponsors. Now, what is W Energy, you might ask? W Energy is clean, jitterless energy. Better than the canned stuff that you would get at your convenience stores, your gas stations, all that kind of stuff. It doesn't have all that trash in it. Now, how do I know? Because I myself use W Energy. So what I've got here, a couple of limited edition flavors. For instance, W Energy puts out this stuff called Grandpa's Ginger Water. I know it don't sound that great, but it is amazing. Limited run that they came out that I've got actually multiple tubs of. I believe in W Energy. I use W Energy myself. Also, this was just released and it's another limited edition flavor that they come out with, and it's called Pom Blom. It's pomegranate blossom. Real nice, clean flavor. And a lot of W Energy, whether it be classics like Calio Cream or the Dub Sludge, whatever it might be, it is clean energy. It's not going to make you feel all crappy at the end of the day after using it. Now, here's what I want you to do, because again, they're obviously a sponsor of mine. But what I want you to do is I want you to go to www.w.gg, order one of the sampler packs, which you get one of these cool tumblers, a part of the sampler pack. And I want you to grab one, but don't use my promo code. That's right. Don't use my promo code Who Else at checkout, because I want you to try it without thinking I'm just trying to sell you a bill of goods. Try it one time, and then when you go back to buy your second order of W Energy, then use my promo code Who Else at checkout for a 10% discount, because all you're going to do is try it. I know you're going to love it. That's how much I believe in this product, and I thank them for sponsoring the show today. What is going on, everybody? Welcome to yet another episode of The Rose Show. As always, I'm your host, Jay. Who else but me? And today, my guest is somebody who has probably one of the more fun stories in professional wrestling and in all forms of entertainment. I think that anything can happen at any time as long as you're there, right place, right time. And this guy absolutely personifies that to a chance meeting and a match that he was supposed to get squashed in, which led to beating AJ Styles not once, not twice, but 3 times. And man, it's just one of the more fun stories of professional wrestling, I think. It is James Ellsworth. My friend, how are we doing today?
I'm great. How about yourself?
Not too bad, not too bad. Like I said before we hit record, man, this is right after Labor Day weekend, and it's been a alcohol-fueled 72 hours for me. So I'm in recovery mode right now, but hey, we're gonna push through. We're gonna push through.
I had a few myself. I was we did a show in Boca Raton, Florida on Sunday, an indie show. I'm still very active on the independents. And I had a few after the show with Ricky Morton and Matt Riddle. So picture this: Ricky Morton, James Ellsworth, and Matt Riddle just having a few cocktails after the show. It was a great time. I love those guys. That's what's cool about the Indies. It's like we're all different generations. We're all on TV at different times, but we're all sitting there enjoying each other's company and having a good time. You know.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. Well, let's go ahead and start at the very beginning because obviously, you're what you just said. You were excited about, hanging out with Ricky Morton and Matt Riddle. You're obviously a fan yourself of professional wrestling, not just in the active industry. How did you become a fan of professional wrestling?
Well, it's funny I bring up Ricky Morton. When I was a kid, this is like I was 5 years old, I guess, in like 1989. The first two wrestlers I remember seeing was one, the Ultimate Warrior. First match I can ever remember watching was the Ultimate Warrior against the Honky Tonk Man. It was probably a VHS tape from SummerSlam. I think it was 87 or 88, but this is like 1989. I'm watching this when he won the Intercontinental title, the Ultimate Warrior from the Honky Tonk Man. When the Honky Tonk Man said, "Give me somebody out here to wrestle," and the Warrior came out and beat him, I was like, wow. 5-year-old me's like, this guy looks like a superhero, and he's, oh man, he's so cool with the makeup and the hair and the body and everything. Like, and then the second wrestler I remember seeing on the other channel on Crockett Promotions there in NWA was Ricky Morton. And when I was a kid, I was like, oh, he just looks like somebody's cool uncle, like with the mullet, So I love that I'm friends with him now, and I've gotten to wrestle him a few times, and um, we became really cool and tight over the years. See each other at a lot of shows. So yeah, that's how I got into it. Those were my two when I was a kid. Two wrestlers I first remember seeing.
Nice. So, what ended up making you go, "Hey, you know what? I'm such a fan of this. I think I'm going to try my hand at it." What was that process like for you, and was it hard breaking in?
Well, yeah, obviously for me, so when I was 17, I broke in. I was 125 pounds, 4 days fresh off of graduating high school. Um, I can't remember not wanting to be a wrestler. I always wanted to be a wrestler, like kindergarten. People are coming to school. It's like the day you had to dress up with, what you wanted to be when you grow up. Like there was kids dressed up as firefighters or doctors or policemen. And I came dressed as a wrestler, like in kindergarten. But man, I remember watching the Iron Man match, Shawn Michaels and Bret Hart, and I remember like, wow, that like Shawn Michaels winning the title. He was my favorite later, when I grew up a little bit, my early preteens, he became my favorite. And I was like, man, he won the belt, and I felt that emotion. I was like, man, this is really what I want to do. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, it was hard for me though because I am the average guy at WWE is what 6'2", 220 probably. Maybe it's a little smaller,
Sure.
but especially when I broke it in 2002, you still had your Brock Lesnar's and your Batistas and your Randy Ortons and your John Cena's. Those guys that were just coming fresh on TV, and everybody looked really good. And even like Rey Mysterio, like he was always jacked. Not always jacked, but I'm not athletic like Rey Mysterio either. But he was a small guy. But I remember seeing like Spike Dudley. I was like, if I could just be like Spike Dudley, he was my inspiration. I think I could do this. Because I saw Spike Dudley on ECW, and yeah, he was getting beat up a lot. But I was like, man, if I can be like that guy, I can do this.
Yeah, yeah, sure. And I know it's not like, me and you having Shawn Michaels as our favorite is, singular to us, but he
Right.
was my favorite as well. And I thought that it's funny, and my mom watches every single show that I do, so she'll remember this too. I used to tell my mom, like, as soon as I get old, I'm gonna move to San Antonio and I'm gonna train with Shawn Michaels and I'm gonna be a star just like him. And then I got into a couple fights as a kid and realized, oh, I'm a pussy. I can't take pain, so that's never gonna happen.
you,
But
you
yeah,
know,
that
crazy. I thought about going to Shawn Michaels Wrestling Academy. But I
mm,
think by the time I graduated high school in 2002, I think he came back. He came back to
yeah.
WWE SummerSlam that year. And so he was about to come back, and I was like, oh, and, I don't know if it closed down quickly after that or what. I was like, he's not going to be there. So I just didn't go, and I signed up. Luckily, I signed up for wrestling school here in Baltimore, and I live in Baltimore, and I trained with Axel Rotten, who was an ECW original. And
Mm,
luckily, I did train with somebody who you know, made it in the business. And one of the big companies, traveled the world, did it for a living. Always tell inspiring wrestlers that's what you want to do. Find someone that's done it on a top level and train with them. So
yeah. Yeah. Well, obviously your intro into the WWE is infamous. Everybody that was watching at that time, I think, just from your look and how you played that off, was just something that everybody's going to remember from here on out. How did that process happen? Like, how did you enter that door to even start that path?
Well, I tell everybody I'm not sure how it works now, but back then, not that long ago, but in like 2014, I started signing up to be an extra talent. Like,
Mm,
which when they come to your town or somewhere close, they use indie guys to be. They could be security guards. They could do a squash match. They could be something like you're an extra. You're in the background. Even if you're having a match, you're still an extra. You're just like it's like being an extra in a movie. You're not the star, but you're in the movie. But it's not like it's your movie, but you're just, lucky to be there and be an extra for it. So you could be a fake nurse if they need you, a doctor, a security guard, or a local wrestler. So I started doing that in 2014, and I started to get to know people there. I was like a rosebud one time for Adam Rose.
mm,
Um, they never were like use it. I was like, man, I hope I get a match because that's what you want to do when you're an indie wrestler. You just at first you're like, man, I hope I just get a match on WWE so I can always say I had a match on there. Um, and but I never got a match because I think like I've been told this a few times. They were like, "Hey, you look too, you have tattoos and you might stand out a little bit, and that's not what they want. If they actually use you for a squash match, it's like they know you're not going to stick out, right? They don't because they want people paying attention to their star and not you. So
right,
it's actually them kind of when they pick you for that, you might be happy and that's cool and for anyone who's never done it, that's awesome that you get to have that experience. But it's really like they're really not looking at you because they're thinking you look like plain Jane if they put you in the ring for a squash match because they want everybody paying attention to their star. Um,
right.
but yeah, I had the match. It's a great story, man. Like I had the match with Strowman. They luckily like they were doing this angle with Strowman, and it started with me. I was the first one where the local competitor that he was wrestling got to say their last words before he would kill you, And I cut a good promo, and that's what got Vince to pay attention. That any man with two hands that I added to it, like because that wasn't in the script. I any man with two hands has a fighting chance.
Really,
Yeah,
really.
that was my line. And dude, Jimmy Jacobs, who was the writer for that promo, to this day, every time I see him, I thank him for allowing me to say that. What I mean by that is, before I went out there, I said, "Hey, I know I'm punching him twice because I punch him. If you go back and watch the match, I punch him twice at the beginning of the match." I said, "Is there any way I could say any man with two hands has a fighting chance?" I said, "In Rocky 5, uh, Rocky says, 'Oh, I just figure if you have two hands, you have a chance.'" He says that in Rocky 5. I took that, put my little, spin on it, and Jimmy Jacobs go, "Oh yeah, man, that's a great line. Just say it. Go ahead, that's fine." That's how he. I was like, "Oh, awesome." So that's the line that people remember to this day. I'll be at a Walmart or a Target or a mall, and people will come up to me and say that line, and I'm very proud of that because those are my own words. So that got Vince to pay attention to the promo and pay attention to me. He was supposed to be paying attention to Strowman again. It's not supposed to be happening. And I get to the back, and they said he wanted to see me, and I was like scared to death because I thought I did something wrong. And I get to the back, and I go. I've never met Vince McMahon. I've seen him in the hallway, being there a few times, but I've never met him or talked to him. So right after the match, and I'm all beat up because Strowman, I mean, he beat the crap out of me, right? And so I'm all beat up, and they're like, "Vince wants to see you," and I can barely walk, and I'm like, "Ugh, yeah, I just want to go get iced up." And I go see Vince in gorilla position. I say, "Hey, sir," they said, "You want to see me?" And he stands up and he takes his headset off and he goes, "Your verbiage was great, your selling was great, and your facial expressions were great. I have no choice but to hire you. I'll be in touch." And shakes my hand. And you gotta like, this is all happening right after I had never had a match on WWE. I was so happy. And like when he was pinning me, I'm laying there going, "Oh, I think I did pretty good." Right? That's what I'm thinking. And I'm thinking this is gonna be the only time I ever wrestle in WWE, but I feel like I did pretty good. And then 2 minutes after the match, I'm in the back, and Vince McMahon, who was the only guy in the history of wrestling to make billions of dollars off of wrestling, is telling me he's going to hire me. I'm like, wow. What? And I went and sat in catering, and again, I'm all beat up. And like, I can remember Chris Jericho and Enzo Amore just calling me and that night on the phone and telling me like, "Man, you did a really good job." They got my number from a referee who was friends with me there. They called him Sticks. His name's Derek. Um,
Yeah.
and, and and they knew he was friends with me, and they called me. Were like, "Man, we saw what Vince said to you, and we can't wait to have you." Like, he's like, "We were all making fun of you before you wrestled. Then we saw you wrestled, and you knew what you were doing." They're like, "Oh, he's actually pretty good." Like, and yeah, it was neat, man. I've one of the, like you said earlier, I've one of the craziest, most fun stories. I can't wait to write a book one day, or maybe be a movie on Netflix or something, because it's remarkable. It really truly is. So,
Yeah. In that era of when the brand split started again, that honestly, in my opinion, and granted, we're not that far removed from it, but that was a very underrated era as far as professional wrestling goes because there was a lot of talent. There was a lot of great storylines. I remember there was a lot of friends of mine at that point in time where I would just tell them like, "Hey, you got to start watching this again." Like, because
uh,
I probably stopped watching wrestling as a whole for about 4 or 5 years after TNA kind of went on their real downhill slide because I was a huge TNA fan and
hmm
I wasn't a fan of the WWE product at that point in time where they were bringing in guest GMs and you had the Muppets hosting Raw. That just wasn't for me. Um, so I wasn't watching for a long time, and then I started reading that the brand split was happening again, and I'm like, okay, because I'm a fan of the brand split. I know a lot of people aren't. I am because I
oh,
think
me too.
you make more stars that way, right?
Yeah.
But I uh I remember calling people like, "Hey man, I know I ain't been watching but forever, but you've got to start watching again. There's all this talent just emerged and there's so many good storylines." And I was watching live during your segment when you had your match with Braun, and that was one of the few like if you can get me to go back on YouTube or something and look up so I can watch it again, like I know that there's something there. And I probably watched that clip a year because again, your expressions were just on point. Like you looked terrified to even be in there, and it looked real. And I was just so blown away. And then when they kept bringing you back, I'm like, man, this is actually kind of cool to watch this real life underdog story. I mean, yes, professional wrestling is scripted, but you broke every mold that any wrestler ever has, even if it was just for a small point in time, which obviously led to, as I said in the intro, to you having a couple matches with AJ Styles and having a program with him. When you got to that point where you were going to have that program with AJ, whose idea was it for it to go the way it was? Was AJ having any kind of pushback to, because I mean, again, you are an underdog. Did he have any kind of pushback to having to put you over, or what was that like?
Well, it was crazy. So after I did the Strowman match, like there's a lot you have to go through before WWE can officially sign you. So like people
Mm,
like the IWC, the Internet Wrestling Community, which it's a loud minority of people who really think they know wrestling and they absolutely don't. They think because I became a meme and all this stuff, which was really cool and I really enjoyed all the memes and everything. They think that's what got me signed. Like I just explained, Vince told me right after the match he was going to sign. He was so.
right, right.
But I had to go through like a background check and I had to do a big physical and all this. And then like a month later, I came back on SmackDown and like we did this angle in the first SmackDown I was on where AJ Styles is the champion at the time. He's looking for a tag partner, but he's a heel. No one wants to tag with him. And Daniel Bryan, who was the general manager at the time, said, "If we don't find a tag partner, we'll find one for you." He's wrestling Dean Ambrose and John Cena that night. So they bring me into the picture, and I'm going to be AJ's tag partner. And that was the match announced for the night. AJ and I against Cena and Ambrose. And then when I made my entrance, The Miz came out and beat me up on the ramp, and he eventually was AJ's partner. And after that, they're like, "Hey, we don't have anything for you because the pay per view's coming up. But after the pay per view, you're going to come back and you're going to work with The Miz." I was like, "Oh man, that sounds fun. That sounds easy." Because I'm new at the time, and I'm looking at
Right.
this like, "Oh, the Miz seems like the easiest guy to wrestle." Because up until that point, I've been wrestling 14 years, so I can, I knew my stuff, and I'm like, "Oh, the Miz will be fun and easy to work with." And so I come back, and they're like, "Hey, you're not working with the Miz. You're working with AJ. We're doing this thing where um, Ambrose is a special referee, and you know, like you're going over." And I'm like, "What? Like this is the world champion. This is the WWE champion." Like, and then once I was like, "Oh, the story is because Ambrose could mess with him." Now to answer your question about AJ Styles, was there any pushback? No, absolutely not. AJ was amazing to work with. He's an amazing human being. He knows wrestling's a show. When people get mad about who's winning and who's losing, it's a show. Like it'd be like Batman mad he's going to lose to the Joker in a fight in the movie. You know, like it doesn't matter if if the story calls for it, which the story called for him to lose. Then there was no pushback at all. No, because he's not. I'm not really. The story is I'm not really beating him. Ambrose is helping me beat him, and I was surprised they kept having it happen at week after week where I kept getting the best of them and beating them. And I was a little surprised about that, but it works. And the story was never I was better than him. The story was like Ambrose is getting the best of him, using me as a pawn.
Yeah,
And but yeah, AJ was tremendous to work with. I love the guy so much. Every booking I get on the Indies, I really think it's because I worked with him, and people just
yeah,
remember that. I mean, people remember the Strowman thing. They remember the women's Money in the Bank thing. They remember other things I did. One of the main things they remember is Chris Jericho putting me on the list. But so, which is like the most watched list moment of all time, apparently.
yeah,
And so, I mean, I was there 2016, 17, and 18. Those were the 3 years I was there. But I had I was only there for 3 years, but I had memorable moments.
yeah.
And I'm very lucky and blessed and fortunate to have those moments. But yeah, that was it was a lot of fun the way it went down.
Yeah, for sure. And sidebar, Chris Jericho has reinvented him so many times, but the rumor is, as of this recording right now, that he might be going back to WWE around January, February. And if he does, he's got to bring back the list. I've been watching Chris Jericho since the early '90s, but the list Jericho is my favorite Jericho. And that moment right there that you were just talking about, man, is one of the best and funniest of all time. So that was all obviously scripted or whatever. Who came up with that? Was that something that was wrote for him, or did he to come up
No,
with that?
that wasn't written in the script. He just did it.
Oh wow!
And that and sometimes, like I said, the any man with two hands has a fighting chance. Was it in the script? I'm not saying their scripts are bad because man, these writers, people crap on them all the time. They have a hard job. They have to
Yeah,
write. Like think about WWE. They're writing for Raw, SmackDown, and NXT. So they're writing 3 shows a week, 52 weeks a year. It's hard to come up with new material. So if you have somebody that's good at improv or ad lib like a Chris Jericho, and he goes out there and does that, well, he did with me. That wasn't in the script, and I'm just reacting to it the way I did, and it made for that moment. It's the most watched list moment ever. I'm
yeah,
very proud of that. And Chris, he's always been great to me. I always call him like my big brother in wrestling because he's always like been there for me and always really really had my back. And yeah, that just it just created for that awesome moment, and yeah, I get sent that on social media every day. Somebody sends me that video. Remember this? So it's great.
yeah. Another moment that you were brought up is the Money in the Bank moment, and it's funny because I was watching live, and there's a spot, if I remember correctly, which obviously memory sometimes get a little wishy washy, but so correct me if I'm wrong here. But if my memory serves me right, you got up on the apron and you were wearing either a hood or a mask or something, and somebody goes that I was watching with goes, "Watch that be James Ellsworth," and we all just kind of laughed. And then the big reveal happens. I'm like, "Oh shit!" I literally stood up and I was like, "I can't! That is so awesome!"
Yeah, that was with like I came back. I was gone for a little bit, and I came back to help
Yeah,
Carmella beat Asuka. But the year before, when I stole the Money in the Bank briefcase and gave it to Carmella, like the first ever women's Money in the Bank ladder match, and I ruined it. Um, that's the one people bring up to me all the time because it was the first ever women's Money in the Bank ladder match, and it was unofficially won by a man, and it created so much heat for Carmella, and that's what we were looking for, and that was perfect. But the moment you're talking about, that was in Chicago where they're actually having SmackDown this Friday. Um, and man, like I'd been gone 7 months at that point. Like they always knew they were going to bring me back. They just gave me a break and I mean, continue my contract. I was allowed to do indies. It was a great time for me. It really was. And when I came back and did the reveal, the reaction I got, I'll never forget. That meant so much to me because I was like, wow, like I've been off TV for 7 months, and these people, like they missed me, like they missed the
yeah,
character. And as a performer, that means so much if they care, and they cared enough to give me that pop, that reaction, that ovation because they had missed the character. And I'll never forget. And I even tweeted that night. I said, "Chicago, I'll never forget that. Thank you so much." And that was one of the best moments I had for sure.
Yeah, it was an awesome moment because again, I don't think everybody. It was there's certain moments in wrestling where people go, man, I wonder if that's who that is. But even in your soul, you don't think it's going to happen. And
Right.
I'm not even really comparing this moment to CM Punk's return, but it's in that same vibe where it was like everybody's like, okay, they're in Chicago. Yeah, I guess I could see CM Punk, but they never expected CM Punk to come out to that Survivor Series. Nobody did. And that's why
Hmm.
the reaction was as loud as it was. And that's very similar to that moment that we're talking about right now. Everybody was like, wouldn't that be funny if that was James Ellsworth? And holy shit, that's him! Because there was that connection, I think, there with you and Carmella. How was it
Yeah.
like working with her? Was that? I know. I'm sure you probably had a great time working with her, right?
Oh, absolutely. She, sweetheart. I just saw her. Well, I hadn't seen her in a while. I just saw her at WrestleCon in Las Vegas, WrestleMania week, and we took a picture together. We got along very well. I don't know if she realizes, but she might because she's a smart girl. She's very intelligent. That was her best run was with me because she won the
Yeah.
Money in the Bank. She
Yep.
what's ultimately led to her winning the women's title, and then when I came back and did the Oscar thing, got her through two Oscar matches, and then she wasn't doing much before me. She was like feuding with Nikki Bella and just doing jobs to Nikki Bella, and it wasn't really that people weren't really that into it. And that taking her from Enzo and Kaz, before she made the main roster, they were together in NXT, but they didn't bring her up. And then once I got with her, yeah, women's Money in the Bank winner, the first ever. Then she won the belt. She did some cool stuff after I left, but she never won the women's title again. And because she was great after I left too. She's a great performer, but I just think there was something magical about her and I together to ultimately led her to the title. And she was getting a lot of mic time because she's really good on the mic as well. And it was just such a great dynamic with her and I. It was a great duo. We were opposites, and people could relate. Oh, he's trying to get the hot girl. Like he's just a little dorky dude trying to get. It was very relatable. He's doing whatever she wants to try to make her happy. People understood it right away, and she was on top of her game then. And she did great throughout her career. She, when I left, she like was women's tag champ. She won like the women's when they used to have the women's rumble at pre-show or WrestleMania, stuff like that. But her best run was with me, and I'm very proud of that too. And I it's because we were just a great duo. We fed off each other really well, and I really really loved working with her, and I'll always cherish. We did a total of like 13 months together on TV, which for a pairing like that, which is not like an odd couple, that's something that was an idea that she had. It was her idea. She went to Vince with for it to last that long and be as successful as it was. Um, Job well done by both of us, I think. And for me going forward, I'm 40 years old now, man. I would love to go back to the WWE and be a manager again, like I was with Carmella, because like I feel like I did really well with it. They were always giving me mic time. They were always having me like helping matches, help her win matches and stuff like that. And I just have, to me, I have the sleazy manager look, that old school sleazeball. Like, oh my god, this guy. Like, so I'd love to come back and help some like a young talent that is very talented, but maybe it's not, ready for that next step yet because he's missing something. If I could help with that, like I would love for that to be my calling going forward, to be a heater or a manager for someone. And I really think the key to it is like when I was with Carmella, I was like, okay, now I have to dress like her, wear a backwards hat and wear like the stuff, and you got to put the talent over you're with when you're a manager. It's not about you anymore. It's about you giving the rub to that talent and helping them get to the next level. And I feel like I really did that with Carmella, and I'm very proud of that. So.
Yeah, for sure. You should be. It was a great run. It was a great run. Any other fun stories from your time at WWE that most people don't know about?
Man, so two of my favorite people there, and I have to say this because it saddens me that they're both gone now. Were Bray Wyatt and Luke Harper. You
Mm.
know, they were so much fun to be around, man. Like backstage, they were both so funny. And Bray Wyatt was always so good to me, always giving me advice. Always, he was the first one to invite me in the locker room to dress with everyone. And Luke Harper, he was just a fun time. Like when I would see him, I would start laughing because he was so funny. Like I knew something was coming. And yeah, it just those guys were such great guys. We lost both of them way too early. It's I don't know why that is, man. It makes me sad because I look back at my time in WWE, and those are two of the first guys I think of because they were just always on the road. Because I was on all the shows, all the house shows, all the tours, and so were they. So spent a lot of time with them, and God, they were just so funny, man. And I miss them. And it just it goes to show you that life is not long, and we get what most of us get 80 years or less. You got to enjoy it. You got to have fun, and and ignore the ignorance that might bestow you, and just keep it positive. And those guys did, and I definitely miss both of them.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Well, I think most fans are going to remember you long term as the ultimate underdog. And I don't mean this in an insulting way at all because I just don't know what it's like to be in this predicament. Are you okay with that being your legacy? Because most wrestlers like, oh, I want to be the champion. I want to be the one that's number one. But for you, you're like kind of best at being the opposite. Are you okay with fans remembering you that way, or how do you think fans should look at the James Ellsworth character from here on out?
Oh, absolutely. I'm okay with being remembered that way. If I've had young wrestlers come up to me and say, "Man, you inspired me to become a wrestler." And I'm sure a lot of talent get that, but for me, it's like smaller guys like didn't know if they could, kind of like Spike Dudley did for me.
Yeah, yeah,
Like I just remember watching EC, and I talked to Spike not too long ago. He doesn't do a lot of signings or anything. I actually run my own wrestling promotion, Adrenaline Championship Wrestling. And I was trying to get him to come do a show, but he's not active at all. He's retired and he's happy, family guy. But I remember that was like my final like inspiration I needed, seeing him performing. He was a small guy, and I was like, man, if he could do it, I know I can do it. And I've had people tell me that about me, and that means a lot to me. And if that's my legacy, where I was an underdog and that inspired people, or any man with two hands has a fighting chance, just those words have inspired people. I've seen people get that tattooed on them and show me and stuff. Like, dude, and nah, I'm not worried. Like, I know my role. Everyone has a role in wrestling, and my role was to be an underdog. Then my role was to be a little cocky guy with Carmella. Like, I get what my roles were. I was very happy with my roles. I would do it all over again for sure. Yeah, and I don't mind. I just enjoyed the ride, man. I had a great time. I have no regrets. I loved it so much, and hopefully you haven't seen the last of me on WWE. I would love to come back and do some more stuff for sure.
yeah. We'd love to see you back, my man. Well, I always tell anybody that's in the industry, thank you very much for what you've done to yourself, your body, your time for the entertainment of the fans. We appreciate it, even if you don't hear it as much as you should. And all the risks you guys take, man, just for our enjoyment. I always say thank you for that. So thank you. And I always also give the last couple of minutes to my guests. If there's anything you want to plug, social media, where we can find more information on your promotion, anything at all, man, the floor is yours.
Yeah, I appreciate you being a fan, man. I like most wrestling fans are great. There's a loud minority that are trolls and like not, and it don't bother me. I have very thick skin, but I appreciate when people are respectful and nice. And most wrestling fans are, and I love wrestling fans, and I love what they did for me. So I appreciate you as well. I know I'm in a funny looking room here. My wife and daughters collect Monster High dolls, and they're just everywhere. I live in a house with three females and just me. I'm outnumbered. But anyway, man, yeah, I appreciate you having me on. Yeah, you can follow me on Twitter or X or whatever the hell they're calling it these days at Real Ellsworth. Instagram at James Ellsworth Wrestling, TikTok at James Ellsworth WWE. Um, and again, I appreciate you. I do, like I said, I run my own wrestling promotion. If you go to acwtix.com, you'll see all the information on that. And all of that, man, take care. God bless. Stay safe. And remember, any man with two hands has a fighting chance.
Thanks, James. I appreciate your time, man.
Thank you, bro. Take care.